If your egg carton says pasture-raised, you might be paying premium prices for a backyard fantasy. The USDA doesn't even define that term for eggs, so brands can slap it on without proving hens touched grass.
The salmonella outbreak and the major egg recall have raised questions once again about whether an agency charged with regulating drugs and food can adequately do its job.
There have also been problems with drugs. The ingredients in a contaminated blood thinner came from China. And whether the tainted products are from abroad or the United States, it's the Food and Drug Administration's job to make sure they're safe for American consumption. The past few years has been one food safety scare after another. There was E. coli-laced spinach, salmonella-tainted peppers, then peanut butter products were recalled, and the latest, bacteria-laden eggs.
And those deep orange yolks. Some companies feed pigments like marigold extract to fake that farm glow. Stay with me. In the next minutes, I'll show you the wallet test, the yolk test, and the exact labels that mean something versus the ones that don't, so you're not funding a photo shoot instead of real pasture. Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great, thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video.
The FDA has received some new money from Congress to police food and drugs. $141.9 million last fiscal year alone, just for food safety.
To identify that there's a problem and then scramble to address it. All of this will take time, of course, but it will make our program, I think, much more effective and efficient. Work with the food industry to put in place risk-based strategies and preventive controls to ensure that problems will not arise rather than chasing them after the fact and waiting till people get sick.
You see the sunny field on the carton and the big badge. Here's the catch most shoppers miss. There's no federal definition for pasture-raised on eggs. The term sounds clean, but there is no rulebook behind it. That gap is where the marketing lives. Words win. Standards vanish. Let's start with how we got this gray zone. Pasture-raised on eggs never had a hard line. Grass-fed on beef did, then the federal standard was dropped in 2016, and the guardrails came off. Since then, private seals stepped in with their own bars, but they vary. Some audit farms, some just collect paperwork. The result is a label aisle where the same words cover very different barns. That's why brands lean on warm photos and soft claims while the real setup is modest at best. A row of tiny doors to a small porch. A few minutes of access that satisfies a checkbox. For beef, a calf on grass early, then a grain push at the end, and the halo still sticks. It's like calling a bottled lemonade fresh squeezed style, because one lemon brushed the rim. Technically true, functionally misleading. Here's what the research points to. The USDA doesn't define pasture-raised for eggs, and the grass-fed benchmark for beef was withdrawn, leaving private certs to fill the vacuum. That vacuum invites theater. Deep orange yolks are sold as proof of pasture, but feed mills sell marigold and other pigments that tint yolks without the forage diet that boosts omega-3s and vitamin E. Farmers have shown that pigment-fed hens lay darker yolks while eating a standard ration. The color sells the story, the nutrition doesn't move. So how do you tell staged from real when the label plays dress up? Use two quick checks. The wallet test and the yolk test. True pasture eggs cost more, often in the $6 to $9 range per dozen, because land, labor, and slower output add up. Bright but oddly uniform yolks week after week, plus a bargain price, are red flags. Now let's move on to beef, where one missing standard turned grass-fed into a spectrum, and your steak's fat tells the story. Here's the kicker. Two steaks can both say grass-fed. One stayed on pasture to the end. The other got a grain push in the last stretch and still wears the same label. Same words, different meat.
There's a new concern over E. coli now. More than 160,000 pounds of fresh and frozen ground beef products shipped to restaurants nationwide are now being recalled due to a potential contamination
in Detroit. Symptoms began between November 2nd and the 10th, and this is the same strain linked to that McDonald's onion case. Wolverine Packing is the name of the company that distributed this meat.
Feels like we've been talking about E. coli for months now, Christine. What can you tell us about this latest recall?
Important information for consumers about their food safety. We're talking about 165,000 pounds of ground beef, 15 cases in Minnesota, and investigators there linked it back to a distributor.
Let's start with what that finish means. Grass-finished beef eats forage from start to harvest. Grain-finished racks up corn or soy at the end for speed and marbling. That finish flips the fat. Flavor shifts too. Pasture brings a cleaner, beefier taste with a firmer bite. Grain piles on softer fat and a sweeter note. When the federal standard vanished, the door swung open. Brands kept the glow but bent the rules. Early life grazing checks the box, then the feedlot smooths the edges. You get a label that leans on a memory, not the diet that shaped the meat on your plate. So use your eyes. Fat tells stories. True grass-finished often shows a faint yellow cast from plant carotenoids.
This meat was sent mostly to restaurants, we think, so the concern among food safety officials is it could still be in freezers.
Yeah, I was going to say, or even, I mean, people freeze their meat, you know, you get a good price, you freeze it.
Absolutely, and this is what they say. They've notified all customers that receive the product. They're going to conduct an intensive internal review to fully figure out where it went and make sure that they have the highest standards of production.
So how do you know? Is there
absolutely.
a lot number or something?
Yep, so these are going to be with a use-by date of November 14th, so look at that on the packaging. These are frozen products with an October 22 production date. That's according to the USDA.
It firms up when chilled and doesn't smear as fast. Heavy grain finishing trends bright white, softer, a little waxy. And watch the seasons. Pasture shifts color with the field. Fall can run more golden. Spring can look paler after winter. A year-round clone look is often a feed recipe, not a pasture. The nutrition backs it up. Grass-finished cuts usually carry a tighter omega-6 to omega-3 balance and distinct fatty acid markers tied to forage. Grain finishing moves that balance the other way. You taste it. Your pan shows it. Butter tells the same story. Real grass-fed butter runs deeper in color and often higher in CLA. Blends padded with vegetable oils mute the gains and flatten the hue. Now for the quick field guide when you're under fluorescent lights with 5 minutes. Grab precision. Look for 100% grass-fed and grass-finished, plus a credible third-party seal. Scan the fat for that slight yellow clue, season allowing. Check origin for a real farm address or assert that audits feed from birth to harvest. You now have a pocket test for eggs and beef. Next, let's talk about what to do so you stop funding photo shoots and start buying real food. Real quality leaves a trail. Clear terms. A real place you can point to. Fat and yolks that match the story, not the photo shoot. So use the wallet test, the yolk test, and the 3 checks this week. Ask who raised it, what it ate, and where it finished. If this gave you something to chew on, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who buys premium on autopilot. Labels sell the dream. Your eyes, your questions, and your receipt protect your health and your budget. Start with 1 swap on your next trip, then keep going. Real food is loud when you learn how to listen.